Hi everyone, how's everyone doing? So this is my 17th book review, and as you're aware, throughout the year I'll be doing book reviews, and today's book is called Attached, and the little bit at the bottom says, are you anxious, avoidant or secure? How the science of adult attachment can help you find and keep love, and it's by Dr. Amir Levine and Rachel S.F. Heller. This book is quite like a well-known book to most people, especially if you've, well, to counsellors it's well-known, but also if you've ever been interested in understanding your attachment styles. So if you're a psychologist especially, you probably have read the book or heard about the book. So the whole purpose of the book is, it says, in this groundbreaking book, psychiatrist and neuroscientist Amir Levine and psychologist Rachel Heller reveal how understanding attachment theory can help us find and sustain love. So you can see from the book the size of it, and you can see all my notes in there. So what I'm going to try and do is keep it as straight to the point as possible, but there's so much in there. It was a really, really good book. I gave it 9 out of 10. It talks about the 3 main attachment styles, which are anxious. So that's where you have a preoccupation with your relationship and you worry about your partner's ability to love you back. So an anxious attachment style, lots of people come to counselling with me for that, where they're just constantly having to be on the phone with their partner, worrying if their partner doesn't text them back, having to be around their partner all the time, stressed if their partner's away from them. So it is literally, the attachment styles are based and modelled on childhood stuff. So John Bowlby, the psychologist, he did experiments where children with insecure attachments, if their parents literally just left, no, actually, I'm not even going to try and get into that because it's a big experiment, but basically what it's trying to say is if you have a secure attachment base as a child, then when you're an adult and you go into adult relationships, you don't have this anxious attachment where you have to be around that person all the time or you're worried they're going to leave you all the time. An avoidant attachment style is where you try to minimize the closeness. So you equate intimacy with a loss of independence. So people who have an avoidant attachment style will normally just date lots of different people at once, or they'll go from relationship to relationship, and the minute someone starts to get close to them or say I love you and that sort of thing, they're out of there because they just see it as being, this is not what I want. But what they say in the book, actually, it talks about the fact that an avoidant attachment style, they actually do want to be loved and they do want security, but they just don't believe that it's possible, so they avoid it. So it's deeper than that. It's not that they're being promiscuous or running around because that's what they want to do. They're doing that because it's a protective mechanism. They really want love, but they don't believe it's possible, or they've just had lack of trust. So that's why they have an avoidant attachment style. Secure attachment is where someone feels comfortable with intimacy and they're usually warm and loving. A securely attached person has got confidence within themselves. So when they're in their relationship, if things are going wrong and it ends, they're the types of people that will move on to a new relationship in the right time, and they won't blame themselves, or they won't be saying, I can't trust another woman or another man. They will just move on and recognise that the relationship has ended. It doesn't mean that my next relationship isn't going to be as good. So some of the chapters include what is your attachment style, decoding relationship behaviour, when attachment styles clash, effective communication, the anxious avoidant trap, and when abnormal becomes the norm. There's loads of chapters, but those are just an example of a few. There's a section on attachment theory with John Bowlby, as I've said, the psychologist who did the experiment with children. He believes that if children don't form secure attachments by the age of 5, so from birth to the age of 5, if their attachments with adults are not secure, he believes that will translate into the rest of their lives, and they'll always be playing catch up, they'll always be insecure with their attachments. I don't agree completely with that. I do feel it's important, whether you're with a foster carer, whether you are with step parents, and you do need an adult caregiver that is secure and consistent in your life throughout those ages. But I don't think that will then have an impact for the rest of your life as an adult, but I do think it will play a big role in that. So one of the quotes from the book says, do we need to be joined to our partner at the hip or give up all other aspects of our lives in order to be happy in a relationship. And it says, no, we don't. The ability to step into the world on your own stems from the knowledge that there's someone behind you, you can count on them. So what that's trying to say is that you don't, because a lot of people have got the assumption that if you're in a loving relationship, whether it's married or you're just living together or you're in a serious relationship, you have to do everything together. You have to be around each other all the time. And if you don't, there's something wrong with you. And I think society puts that on there. If you say, I am in a relationship but we live in separate houses, or I'm in a relationship but we do our own interests, we do our own things at the weekend, it gets frowned upon. And I know this because even recently when I made a post on my Facebook page and I said that I'm quite an independent person, but I do want to be in a relationship, but I'm not the type of person that would want to be doing absolutely everything with my partner. I'd rather that they go off and do some things I do. So people would go, oh, that means, what's wrong with you? Someone was put in, that's not how a relationship works. And, you need help. But it was really, I was getting a lot of backlash and a lot of criticism. And I just thought, because that's how society perceives it, you have to be doing everything together. And it's saying that it's actually natural. If you're secure in your relationship, you don't need to be around your partner all the time. You don't need to, they can go off on whether it's boys' holiday, girls' holiday, and you're going to have that trust. You know, you can go out, spend a weekend apart and not say, oh, it's like I'm missing my left arm and, I have to phone the person every 2 seconds. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that sort of connection, but you don't have to. What it's trying to say is that doesn't mean that you've got a secure relationship just because you were constantly having to be around each other. And I think that's the thing to consider for yourself as well. I found the book interesting. It was easy to understand. It was informative. There's loads of case studies and examples in this book. I think that's what really made it a really interesting read. I couldn't put it down. I've got loads of value from it. It talks about, it's saying that adults show patterns of attachment to their romantic partners similar to the patterns of children to their parents. So that's going back to what I've just said. If you had a strong attachment and a strong relationship with your mum or your dad, then it will show up in your romantic partners. There's a thing in here which is called an ECR questionnaire, Experience in Close Relationships, and it gives you a checklist of things to check, and it talks about how comfortable you are with hugging, how comfortable you are with spending time apart from your partner, how comfortable you are with making decisions without your partner. So it kind of gives you some questions to answer so that you can figure out your attachment style, but also you figure out your partner's attachment style as well. So I've got a few, as I've said, look at these. I'm going to read through a few of these because I think they're important. So there's a case study in here, which is Emily. Emily's the case study. So when Emily was in her psychiatry residency, she decided she also wanted to become a psychoanalyst. Before starting classes at the psychoanalytic institution, she was required to embark on her own analysis for at least a year, going to therapy 4 times a week. When she was lying on the couch and talking about whatever came to mind, she was doing really well. She appeared to have everything together, and her analyst said that, this is fantastic. We don't even need to have lots of sessions. Then she met David, whom she fell for very quickly. He was an inspiring actor. He gave her mixed signals about wanting to be together, and this really unnerved Emily. It changed her behaviour until she appeared to have completely destabilised. It says that she would be always checking her phone. She would cancel appointments with people so that she could wait for David to contact her. It said her analysis couldn't make sense of this horrible transformation in this most promising candidate. From a resilient, together person, Emily began to change into someone with I can't even say this word, masochistic, borderline personality traits. So it's saying that it wasn't that she was masochistic or she had borderline personality disorder. It was a simple case of an activated attachment system. That's another thing that I'll get into when I'm continuing with this review. So what it's trying to say is that when we know who we are as people, when we're alone and when we're our strongest and at our most confident, the minute you get into a relationship with another person, that's when lots of different things start to come out, and it can either change you, you can become a totally different person. but it's still the fact that you're in control of it. So in this situation, it's saying it demonstrates how sensitive your attachment system can be. So the fact of the matter is, this person was on her own journey, Emily was, and she was doing, she was doing well. A psychoanalyst said she was doing brilliantly. Then she met this person, and then she just changed because she fell in love with him really quickly. And then all of a sudden, her focus was all on this person. So it changed who she was. So it was no longer was she outgoing and confident and focusing on her studies. She was waiting for the phone to ring. But also it was because he was giving mixed signals. So he wasn't providing the secure attachment that she needed, but she was securely attached before he came along, and then she became anxious attachment. So in here, it talks about the fact that you can sometimes be attracted to different partners. So in this case, it goes back to Emily's case. She was a secure attachment style, but she was attracted to an avoidant person. And so it's saying if you're an anxious person and you have an anxious personality, you shouldn't be dating someone avoidant, because you want closeness and intimacy, they want to maintain distance. You're sensitive to any signs of rejection, they send mixed signals. You find it hard to tell them directly what you need, they're bad at reading your verbal and non-verbal cues. You need to be reassured and feel loved, but they tend to put you down to create distance, because that's part of their attachment style. You need to know where you stand in the relationship, and they prefer to keep things fuzzy. So have you ever met someone where they're always saying to you, every time I was in a relationship once, and every time we were getting closer and it felt like it was going somewhere, and I'd say, where are we going with this? Because we wasn't official. They'd say, we're going with the flow, or what do we need to know, or why do we need to put a label on it, or we're having fun, aren't we, or why do you need to know how I feel? And avoidance will do that because to them, they don't want to have to say, look, I'm really starting to like you, or they don't want you to get too attached to them. So it's a combination. So they're going to give you either vague responses or mixed signals, and eventually you're going to have to make a decision. And when you make the decision, it will actually be good for them, because they're thinking, well, now I can move on to the next one. But a lot of times they won't make that decision. They won't say to you, this isn't going anywhere, or I'm not looking for anything serious. They'll wait for you to do that. So it talks about we have to learn how our attachment system works. There's something in here called activating strategies. So these are thoughts or feelings that compel you to get close physically or emotionally to your partner. Once they're activated, they're often consumed with thoughts that have a single purpose, and that is to re-establish closeness. So there's a page in here where it talks about this a bit more. So an activating strategy, thoughts and feelings that compel you to seek closeness with your partner, thinking about your partner and finding it difficult to concentrate on other things, remembering only the good qualities, so you don't remember all the times they've let you down or all the things they're doing wrong, you're just obsessed with the positives, putting them on a pedestal, an anxious feeling that goes away only when you're in contact with the person, believing that this is your only chance for love, so I'm only compatible with a few people, I can't lose this person. So that is like an anxious attachment style, because you are saying to yourself, I have to hold on to this person no matter what. Believing that even though you're unhappy, you'd better not let go, because if this person leaves you, you'll miss a great partner for life. Believing that this person can change, and it says minimising the issues, so saying all couples have problems, just because we're going through a rough patch, it doesn't matter. So when you're doing those sorts of activating strategies, you're convincing yourself of something that isn't actually happening in the relationship. So if things are going wrong and this person keeps letting you down or giving you mixed signals, but because your mindset, if you're an avoidant or an anxious attachment, if you're an anxious attachment, you would make reasons or good justifications for what they're doing, and it would still mean that you, no matter what they do, you still don't want to leave them anyway. And I've met quite a lot of people like this. They'll be in relationships, and then when it's pointed out that this person hasn't phoned you for 2 weeks, or you never see this person at weekends, or they're always letting you down, or I've noticed you're always crying about this person, they'll the evidence is there, but then they'll always justify it because the fact is they don't want to leave the relationship. So protest behaviour is any action that tries to re-establish contact with your partner by getting their attention through things like going to a singles bar and telling your partner, right, I'm at the singles bar now, or cheating, or making plans with an ex-boyfriend. So what you're doing in those situations is, it's called protest behaviour, because the aim of it is to get a reaction. And so this is where you have these people that are in on again, off again relationships. So they don't want to be with each other full time because they're probably both avoidants sometimes. So what they do is they play games with each other. So they'll say, right, I've contacted my ex and we're going on a date. Then it will bring the other person back. So they're on again in the relationship. And then it won't work because they don't want to be together really. So then they'll go off and do something else. Right, I'm at a singles bar, I'm speed dating, and then it will draw the other person back. So this can go on and on and on for years. People who are in on-off relationships are talking. I saw a program once where someone was in this sort of relationship for 15 years, and I just thought the idea of like not making a decision either way about a person for 15 years, going back and forth, dating other people, splitting up, getting back together. It's 15 years of your life. And then at the end of it, eventually someone goes off anyway and makes that decision. So there's a few other bits in here. Let's see what else I'm talking about. So there's other case studies, Ryan and Shauna, and it was talking about co-workers who fell in love together. And then it says, Ryan left the workplace to take a high-paying job. It just talks about, obviously, all these things about Ryan going on a business trip. He missed Shauna and tried to call her. The call went to voicemail after 2 rings. He got upset. It went to voicemail. He didn't leave a message. He felt hurt that she had pushed the ignore button. He found it hard to concentrate. He had an anxious attachment style. And it just goes on in this case study, just talking about the fact that he, what did he do in the end? It was just, yeah, it's a long case study, but it just talks about the things that he was doing to make her jealous. So that's partly to do with that protest behaviour. So because he went on a business trip and he was anxious and he was phoning her all the time and she wasn't answering, and he was making up all these stories about why she's not answering, instead of him tackling it, communicating with her, talking about how maybe it's making him feel and reflecting on it, he decided to use protest behaviour, which is going out with his work colleagues, doing things to try to make her jealous. So that's sort of just an example of what that is. So let me just have a look at a few more of these. So it just says, it's important to remember that the avoidant attachment style always manifests itself. It determines to a great extent what you expect in relationships, how you interpret romantic relationships, whether you are single or involved in a relationship, even a committed one. You are always manoeuvring to keep people at a distance. So if you're an avoidant, you'll do whatever it takes to make sure you maintain your independence, because your mindset and your message, your internal message and belief, is that you can't be in a committed relationship, but you love the attention and you love the love that it brings when someone else is telling you they love you and all the rest of it. So a person who is avoidant will never say I love you. I've been in a relationship, actually. I've been in 2 relationships where I said I love you to one person and they said, what are you telling me that for after, like, I think we were together 9 months. What are you telling me that for so soon? And I almost laughed because I'm thinking, I've never like had that reaction to like saying I love you. I can't help it when I fall in love with a person. Yeah, it was 9 months, but that's how I felt. So but this person was just literally like almost angry. Then the second person, I said, you know that I love you. And then they said, you know, what words did they use? The exact words were, I care about you, something like I have feelings for you too, or I care about you, something, but it wasn't love anyway. And then I said, what does that mean? And they said, it means what I said. So whatever words they were using were not like love enough. I'm still confused to this day. This was someone I dated for about 2 years. I still don't know what he meant, because he didn't say I love you. I don't think he even said I care about you too. He said something really vague that had nothing to do with that. And it's what's the word called? It's an act to keep someone's distance and to confuse that person so that they're thinking, I need to step back a little bit. So that's like an avoidant thing. So let's just look at a few more. I don't want to go on for too much longer. So it just talks about here, what I'm talking about is, so is this talking about attachment? One moment, just need to see where I'm at with this. So I think this is talking about people with a secure attachment style. So it just gives examples of people who have got really good attachment styles. They're not threatened by criticism. They're not game players because they want the closeness. They've got a secure attachment. They're good communicators. They're inclined to view sex and emotional intimacy as one thing. So they don't use people for sex, or they don't see sex and intimacy as separate things. They see it as all a way to get close to their partner. They're responsible for their partner's well-being. They expect other people to be responsive and loving towards them. They're quick to forgive, and they have good boundaries. So I'm just going to look at a few more things because, as I've said, I've put loads of notes in here. I won't read this one because this is from the chapter, The Anxious Avoidant Trap. This is just an example. There's loads of the whole section, actually, the whole chapter 8, just has loads of case studies, which is trying to show the differences in people who are in anxious avoidant relationships, people secure anxious. It gives different examples. I don't need to read all of them. But if you get this book, that's one of the good things. It's got loads of case studies, lots of examples, and it's really easy and simple to understand. So I'll just read this, the 5 principles of effective communication, and I'm going to be making a video about this actually separately, so I'll just give you the 5 principles, but I am going to make a video so you'll be able to watch that. So it's saying that effective communication, you need to wear your heart on your sleeve, you need to focus on your needs, so you have to communicate what you want, you have to be specific, don't blame the person, be assertive and non-apologetic. So yeah, that's straightforward really, but you'll see it when I make my video. And then the rest of it really is just, it's just giving ways to avoid conflicts. What else is in there? Just tactics that people use. Oh, one of the last bits, I suppose, is it gives actual examples of a situation that you might be in. So as an anxious person or an avoidant person or a secure person. So it shows a couple that are together, and then it will show what the dispute or the conflict is. And then what I really like about the last part of this book is it shows what the person says or what they do to aggravate the other person, and then it shows what they should do or they could do. So it might have an example of, okay, someone's withdrawing or someone is feeling anxious because of A, B and C, and then it will say what the person did, which will make things worse, but then what you can do instead. So it's got some really good stuff in. I mean, you can tell it's written by obviously psychologists and obviously a doctor there. So the book again is called Attached. I gave it 9 out of 10, and I could have gone on even more, but I just thought I want to keep it brief. But some of these books are really good. What I'm finding that I'm starting to read all these books, I'm getting knowledge for my counselling practice as well, but I'm also learning things for myself. It's just, I would advise anyone, like if that's your thing, to either do a month. I think I did a month of listening to audiobooks for the whole month. So that was 30 books that I listened to. Or this is for the whole year, obviously, so I'm reading 1 book a week. Or you can even just do it where you just implement reading more into your routines. It's about gaining the knowledge, but it's also about, there's some really important things that can have a good impact on your personal development as well. So thanks for watching. Leave your comments, let me know what you think. Have you read the book yourself? What do you think about it? And I'll see you all soon. Take care. Bye.